He watched everything he loved disappear, and realized that was the key to freedom. Around 2,500 years ago, a man named Siddhartha sat under a tree and observed something that changes everything, that nothing lasts. His body was aging. His thoughts were coming and going. The tree above him was growing and dying. The seasons were changing. Everything around him, everything within him, was in constant flux. Nothing stayed the same, not even for a moment. And in that observation, he found the answer to human suffering. People suffer because they cling to things that can't be held. They want permanence in a world where nothing is permanent. They want their pain to end and their pleasure to last. But both are temporary. And once you truly understand that, once you accept that everything changes, you stop suffering over the inevitable. You become the Buddha, the awakened one, not because you stop feeling pain, but because you stop making it permanent in your mind. Here's why most people suffer more than necessary. Not because bad things happen, but because they believe bad things will last forever. They're in pain, and they think, this is permanent. This is who I am now. This is my life now. They take a temporary experience and turn it into a permanent identity. And that mental trap is what creates unbearable suffering. Not the pain itself. The belief that the pain won't end. Buddha saw this everywhere. People experiencing loss and thinking they'd never be happy again. People dealing with failure and believing they were failures forever. People going through hard times and convinced this was their permanent reality. And he'd tell them the same thing. This isn't permanent. Nothing is. This pain you're feeling right now, it will pass. It's already passing. Every moment it's changing. You're just not noticing. But they didn't want to hear it. Because humans have this weird thing where they think the present moment defines the future. If you're suffering now, you'll suffer forever. If you're happy now, you'll be happy forever. But Buddha observed that this is never true. Everything changes. Always, without exception, your current state is temporary. Your pain is temporary. Your pleasure is temporary. Your circumstances are temporary. You are temporary. Everything you know is in the process of changing right now. This sounds depressing. But Buddha said it's actually liberating. Because if pain isn't permanent, you don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to make up stories about how it'll ruin your life. You can just experience it, knowing it will pass, just like everything else passes. That knowledge doesn't make the pain disappear, but it stops you from making it worse by believing it's forever. He taught something called impermanence. It's one of the core insights of Buddhism, that everything is in constant flux. Nothing stays the same. Not your body, not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your circumstances, not your relationships, nothing. And trying to hold on to things as if they're permanent is what creates suffering. Because you're fighting against the fundamental nature of reality. And you can't win that fight. Think about it. You want to stay young, but your body ages. You want a moment of happiness to last, but it fades. You want people to stay the same, but they change. You want bad times to end quickly, but they linger. All of this suffering comes from wanting permanence in an impermanent world. From clinging to what can't be held, from resisting change that can't be stopped. Buddha said the solution isn't to stop caring, it's to stop clinging. Enjoy happiness while it's here. Experience pain while it's here. But don't try to make either permanent. Don't hold on so tight that you suffer when it inevitably changes. Because it will change. Everything does. That's not a bug in the system. That's the system. There's this story about Buddha after his enlightenment. Someone came to him devastated because their loved one had died. and they asked him why. Why did this happen? How do I make this pain stop? And Buddha didn't give them some spiritual platitude. He asked them to go find a household where no one had died. If they could find one, he'd give them the answer they sought. They searched everywhere. Every house, every family, and everyone had experienced loss. Everyone had lost someone they loved. And they came back to Buddha understanding. Death is part of life. Loss is universal. Pain is inevitable. Not because the world is cruel, because everything is impermanent. Life includes death. Gain includes loss. Happiness includes sadness. You can't have one without the other. Trying to avoid the negative parts of impermanence while keeping the positive parts is impossible. So Buddha taught acceptance, not passive acceptance, where you give up. Active acceptance, where you stop resisting what is. Your pain is here right now. Okay? Accept it. Experience it. But don't make it more than it is. Don't make it permanent in your mind. Don't make it mean something about your whole life. It's just what's happening right now. And right now is always changing. He also taught that joy comes from the same source as suffering. From impermanence, you can experience joy because things change. If everything was frozen, there'd be no possibility of improvement, no possibility of healing, no possibility of growth. The fact that everything changes means that bad situations can become good, that pain can become peace, that you're never stuck permanently in any state. So impermanence isn't the enemy, it's actually your friend. It's what makes transformation possible. It's what allows healing. It's what means that your current suffering won't last. Yes, your current joy won't last either. But then new joy becomes possible. Different joy, as you change and life changes. That's the deal. Nothing lasts. Which means nothing bad lasts. But it also means you can't hold on to the good. You have to keep letting go. Keep accepting change. Keep moving with life instead of trying to freeze it. Now let's make this practical. Because you're probably suffering right now over something that's temporary, but you're treating it like it's permanent. And that mental mistake is amplifying your pain. Think about your current biggest problem. Whatever's stressing you out, making you anxious, keeping you up at night. Now ask yourself, honestly, is this permanent? Will this situation last forever? Almost certainly not. Things will change. Maybe not as fast as you want, but they will change. Because everything does. The problem isn't the situation. The problem is you're thinking about it as if it's permanent. As if this is your life now forever. And that thought is what's making it unbearable. Because you're not just dealing with today's problem. You're dealing with the imagined permanent version of it. You're re-suffering over a future that doesn't exist yet and probably won't exist the way you're reimagining it. Buddha would tell you to come back to right now. This moment. Not the permanent version in your head. Just right now. Is this moment bearable? Usually, yes. This single moment is almost always manageable. It's when you project it forward infinitely that it becomes unbearable. So, stop doing that. Stay here. In this changing, temporary, impermanent moment. That's all you ever have to deal with. Just now, and now keeps changing. Into something else. Something you can't predict. Or think about pain you've experienced in the past. Remember something that hurt terribly, that you thought you'd never recover from. Where is that pain now? It changed. Maybe it's completely gone. Maybe it's a distant memory. Maybe it transformed into something else. But it didn't stay the same. Because nothing does. The pain that felt permanent was temporary. Just like your current pain is temporary. You've already proven to yourself that pain passes. You just forget this when you're in the middle of new pain. Here's the practice Buddha taught. When you're suffering, remind yourself, this is temporary. This will change. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it will change because everything changes. That reminder doesn't fix the problem, but it stops you from making the problem permanent in your mind. It keeps you present with what's actually happening instead of lost in catastrophic thinking about a permanent future that won't actually happen. Also, practice noticing change. Right now, notice your breath. It's changing, in, out. Notice your thoughts. They're changing. One thought, then another. Notice sensations in your body. They're changing. Comfort, discomfort, always shifting. This practice trains you to see impermanence directly, not as a concept, as your actual lived experience. And the more you see it, the less you cling, the less you suffer. Buddha also taught about the flip side, that pleasure isn't permanent either. You have a good day. Enjoy it, but don't expect it to last forever. Don't cling to it. Don't try to make it your new, permanent state, because it will change. And if you're attached to it staying, you'll suffer when it goes. But if you enjoyed it while it was here and let it go when it left, you don't suffer. You just appreciate what was and stay open to what comes next. This is hard for people, because we want to keep the good. We want happiness to be permanent. But Buddha is saying that wanting that is what creates suffering, not the loss of happiness, the attachment to keeping it. If you can enjoy without clinging, you get all the pleasure with none of the suffering when it ends. But most people can't do that. They grip happiness so tight that losing it breaks them. The ultimate teaching is this: everything you're experiencing right now is temporary. Your pain, your joy, your confusion, your clarity, your success, your failure, your relationships, your circumstances, your body, your life, all of it is changing right now. In this moment, nothing is frozen, nothing is permanent. And fighting that reality is the source of all your unnecessary suffering. Accept impermanence, not with resignation, with understanding, with relief even. Because if nothing is permanent, nothing can trap you. No pain can hold you forever. No mistake defines you permanently. No loss is the final word. Everything changes, always. And that means healing is always possible. Growth is always possible. Transformation is always possible. The person you are right now is not the person you'll be tomorrow. Thank impermanence for that. Buddha spent his whole life teaching this. Not because he was pessimistic, because he saw clearly, and what he saw was that impermanence, properly understood, is freedom. It's the key to not suffering over what you can't control, which is everything. Because you can't control change. But you can stop resisting it, and that stops the suffering. Your pain isn't permanent. Nothing is. And once you really understand that you're free, subscribe for more truth about reality.